Welcome to the Gravel Lot, the place where bikes are for everyone.
The Gravel Lot podcast is presented by Be Free Ride Bikes Apparel, providing a fully customized cycling apparel experience to provide you and your team the attention to detail and personal touch that you deserve.
And also brought to you by Grimpore Brothers Coffee, offering handmade coffee roasted weekly in small batches to give you the finest quality coffee to start your day. Choose their subscription service and earn your free bag of coffee today.
And by Hand Up Gloves. Great gear, better times. Providing a wide range of apparel for bikes, snow sports, and golf in multiple designs and fits to let your personality shine.
Our goal with the Gravel Lot is to inspire cyclists of all stripes to ride bikes, share their story, and have fun. We love all bikes and anyone who wants to ride them. So no matter where you sit on the spectrum of bikes, we'll always have a place for you in the Gravel Lot.
And now, the hosts of TGL, John Woolry and Doug McClintock.
Hello and welcome back to the Gravel Lot, the official podcast for all things cycling. I'm John, that's Doug. We are so glad that you guys found us. Whether you are a new Pebble or an existing Pebble, welcome to the show. So for the new folks, what is TGL? We say this every single week, so if you're a longtime listener, like hopefully you know it by now.
Yeah, you better. I mean, you better.
But we, Doug and I, as well as probably all of you longtime listeners, fully believe that the only thing better than a bike ride is sharing a bike ride with your friends. So we love bikes. We love hearing from people and hearing them tell their personal story, share their personal journey. So no matter what ride that you guys are on today, tomorrow, next week, next year, whenever, we want you guys to know that you will always have a home here with us in the Gravel Lot. So if you guys like what you hear today, believe in what we're doing, hit the like button, hit the notification, subscribe, share the show with your bike friends, do all of that thing, do all of the things that the internet wants you to do to tell it that you like it, or whatever. Just
Yeah.
AI
Feed the AI, feed the algorithm, do whatever the things are, because no one actually knows.
No, don't.
Maybe you should create controversy, because apparently that's what all of them like. So create controversy about us being so awesome and that we're better than any other podcast you've ever heard in your entire life.
Controversial podcast on the internet.
That's not true, but also we don't do hot takes. That's not what we're about here. No. But if you've got hot takes, you should leave them in the comments down below. Hit a link in our show notes and check out our website, visit our Etsy store, do all that stuff. Support us on Patreon, become a patron. We'd love to have you. Helps us make this work. And also go visit all the partners that we're so proud of and glad to be engaged with. They make this thing happen. They're all mentioned in the intro, links in the show notes. Do all that stuff. Appreciate you supporting them. They do an amazing job, make great products, and we are thankful to have them on board. If you do want to send us contact or questions or just like, yo, what's up? You can do so. Feedback, whatever, at all the social platforms. We are at the Gravel Lot on all of those, or you can visit our website, gravelot.com, or you can give us a call and send us a voicemail at 513-400-5577. Got one from Sweetwater. John, I don't know.
Elijah, your product's shipped.
Elijah, your products have
your order from Sweetwater's on the way.
So enjoy that, but leave us a voicemail. We'd love to hear from you. So that's excellent. And gang, it's Thursday. I mean, this is past Thursday, but it's future Thursday. If you are downloading this today, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, Pebbles.
Or for those of you who are ska influenced, happy Skanksgiving.
I got nothing to add to that.
That's true.
Just dead pregnant pause right there.
That's for Tara. Tara's down. Thanksgiving. There used to be big parties always at ska, skanking.
Okay.
Thank.
All right. Well, regardless, okay, so let's do this instead of talking about our ride this week, Doug.
Yeah.
What are you thankful for?
Stuff we'll not talk about on this podcast. That's what I am thankful for. There you go.
Okay.
But outside of that, I am also thankful for all the people who have really put me in the space that I need to be in right now in my life. And I'm thankful for all of them. And that includes all you Pebbles and includes you, John, and my beautiful now wife. I have had an amazing village around me for a long time, and I feel like I'm in a good spot. And it's thanks to everybody that did that. So, I mean, y'all push me every day. You challenge me to be a better me and to grow into being a better person. And I appreciate that. So I'm really, really thankful for all of those experiences that have brought me to this point. Yeah, that's where I'm at. What about you? What are you thankful for?
I don't know if I can add anything to that. I was thinking about it today as I was kind of typing this up, of just kind of the outline of the show. And to me, it's just, I'm so thankful for the process, all of the good stuff, all of the bad stuff, thinking about everything that's happened in my life. And I talked about it, I don't even remember how many shows ago, but somewhere deep in the show, I talk about how the Gravel Lot has changed me forever as a person, talking to a new
You talked about it at my wedding, like brilliantly. People, I should have recorded it. John can maybe find the speech and re-record it for y'all.
But it's the whole idea that talking to a new person every week, hearing their story, hearing their trials, tribulations, all of those things, it gives you more perspective. It's given me perspective on a lot of things that have gone on in my life. You guys, the longtime listeners, have lived through a lot of those things with me, with myself, my wife, my entire family. And just so thankful for all of those things, the family, the friends, all of those things rolled together as just part of the process of what I feel like is every day just trying to be a little bit better than the day before. And to your point, you said it brilliantly. All of those people contribute to that in some way, shape, or form, whether it's modeling behavior or it's calling you out when you make a mistake or whatever
even
those
just hating
things
on
are,
you.
like just
Right?
the process. Like, just so thankful that there's so many amazing people around me, around you, and just excited for what's ahead. Like, there's so many things that are stressful right now for a lot of people. But I feel like those things are because the world is kind of coming back alive, and things are moving again, and people want to go do things, and they want to make up for lost time, and want to do things the right way now that they kind of were on pause for so long. They had some time to reflect and think about the space that they were in. So, yeah, just thankful for a lot of that stuff. So let's make that the challenge this week is why don't you guys leave a comment on our post, no matter where it's at, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, send us a contact form on the website, call the voicemail, and tell us what you're thankful for and share it with the world. Because I think if you share it on social media, yes, Doug is right that it doesn't reward positivity. It definitely rewards conflict, but I think that we need to put some positivity out in the world because we need a little bit less conflict. There's not as much conflict as everyone believes that there is. I'll say that.
No. It is definitely, everything rewards us hearing about that. So that's definitely a thing. You said something in there, John, and I think your comments are beautiful, but you said something in there that I think rings true for today, because I think we are actually in the space. I think we are going to go back today to the roots of the gravel lot, really talking with a local cyclist about their story in discovering the joy of cycling. And so we are joined today by Stephen Acosta, who is the VP, the Manager of Inclusion and Diversity at Fifth Third Bank, which is located right here in the beautiful downtown Cincinnati, with a much nicer Christmas tree than we had last year. So good.
You saw it already.
Yeah, no, good on you, everybody. Nice work. It's not as weird of a Christmas tree. Anyone, if you have not seen that, go look at the Christmas tree that showed up last year in downtown Cincinnati. It's very amusing. The internet enjoyed it. But right here in Cincinnati, Stephen has a really awesome life story that has had bikes interjected in it, and it's relevant on a lot of different levels, and I think it's just a great story to share with y'all. So with that, Steve, let's dive right in. Stephen, welcome to the Gravel Lot.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I am excited, and I'll be honest, I think this is the first time I've ever recorded or have been recorded in a podcast. So this was something brand new, and like I can take it off my bucket list or something.
Sweet. We're glad you're here for it.
If this, I mean, that's really, really sweet of you to say, but I kind of doubt that being recorded on a podcast was on your bucket list, but I'm taking it. Like you said it, it's recorded. I've got it. Doug's got it. Zoom's got it. So we're good.
There you go.
Yeah. So I think before we even start, first off, I got to thank my wife. She's the one that put us in contact with you, thanks to Sea Change Cincinnati. You guys met through that. I met you at a Reds game. You told me what we're going to talk about over probably the next hour in 3 minutes, and it was like an overwhelming 3 minutes. So I was like, oh my God, we have to revisit this, and we have to kind of pick it apart and talk through it. So
I when you told me what you did, I was like, I'll just share you my story, but like, yeah, whatever. Like, and then I just spurted out, and you're like, wait, what? And it
you
really,
have an
honestly,
elevator pitch. It's very clear. You definitely you work in professional world. Like you've got an elevator pitch.
So maybe this is taking something off the bucket list because you had that in the Rolodex. You're like,
maybe I knew.
Let me tell the story because
I knew, and I was just ready, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is it. I'm meeting him, and now I get to just give him my elevator.
I'm gonna shoot my shot and see what happens. Yeah,
there you go.
Let's see if this works.
It worked.
Well, that's excellent. So we know a little bit about your background, but let's talk a little bit about it. We chatted a little bit in the green room about bikes, and normally our stories kind of revolve around people who've had bikes in their lives for a lot of their lives. We know that you had bikes like most of us do in our lives to some extent as a kid, doing things on bikes, but it wasn't really like a it's not like you grew up in Boulder, Colorado racing bikes, right? That wasn't part of this thing. Where did you grow up, and what was kind of your formative early life memories
Yeah.
around just living and bikes?
Oh, okay. Well, I can tell you many stories actually, and that, because honestly, they're just hitting me. And really, I think they revolve around riding my bike to school. And when I was in elementary school, I definitely rode my bike with my brother, and he is older than me, 2.5 years older than me. And so when we would go to ride to school, I remember telling him he's too far away. And so he went back. Well, guess what? My tire hit his, and he lost his, he chipped the front of his tooth really bad.
Oh,
Oh
And,
no.
I hear all about that. Like, even like today, he'll bring it up. Like, yeah, you chipped my tooth. I'm like,
adult was
sorry.
it an adult tooth?
No, it was, yeah, it had to have been an adult
Ooh.
tooth.
Oh,
And so, yeah, so he was not happy with that. So I would say that, when I was younger, that was definitely a funny story to remember. Not, it just hit me, right? But further, I also, I guess when I was in elementary school, and moved to Florida. And that's the story of me being in elementary school was in Florida. And this other one too, another elementary school, I bought another bike. I was older, probably fifth grade at this point. Got a sports bike. And I guess I can't even remember the name of it. I think it's like 3 letters, the sports bike name. And I just don't know what it is. I know it's not DMX.
as
I just
we covered, R.I.P. DMX.
Yeah.
Yes, it's not. But whatever it was, I would ride my bike to school as well. And sadly, that bike, I left it over the weekend because my mom picked me up early from school, and someone stole the tire from that bike. So that was not a good experience there. But what I will say though is, I did have a 3-wheeler. And do you call it a tricycle? Because I feel like that's a kid's bike name. What do you call it, like a grown-up 3-wheeler?
Is it trike, John?
I
Like,
don't I don't
it
know.
depends. Did it have like a cool, like a lot of times trikes have like a cool basket in the back, or
Yes.
did it have a
Yeah.
basket in the back?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Trike.
I love, yeah. So we found that bike. And I don't know if that means we stole it or if we actually found it. I honestly don't know.
Maybe it was karma for the bike from 5th grade. It was just
There you
life giving
go.
you something back.
Giving me three new
Yeah.
wheels, and
Yes. Yeah.
for
Yeah,
the
it
one
was
that
it
I
was paying it
lost.
back with interest.
I'd say so. I'd say so. Well, I had that bike for a while, and let me tell you, I was the king of Governor's Walk. That's the neighborhood that I grew up in, and it was just so cool to ride that bike and just be like, because this is how I looked, and the basket was in the back, and yeah, really, really good memories with that 3-wheeler, I would
Those
call it.
things, those things are hilarious to drive because they corner all funny and they
Yes, yes.
like
Oh, but that was
lean.
intentional. So you would do that. Yeah, I would do that. I would go on 2 wheels. And so, yeah, definitely. Again, really good memories on that one for
I
sure.
think every bike shop of any scale that I've ever been in has one of those bikes to take parts from the back and bring it out to the sales floor, and it is generally the most fun bike in the shop because the minute it goes outside,
Someone's getting hurt.
yes, generally deductibles are being met. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I hear you. I hear you for sure.
So you grew up in Florida. Florida was like the most of your seminal years. What was your educational track like that brought you to, of all places, Cincinnati? Like Florida is
Yeah,
not Cincinnati, let's be clear, and neither is Cincinnati, Florida. But
yeah.
like what kind of was the trajectory of your life that saw you, go through school and professionally end up in this space?
Yeah. So, well, first I'll say I was born in Connecticut, and
Okay,
my
all right.
mom,
Pause. Where in Connecticut? Because I grew up in Connecticut.
so Stanford Hospital, Norwalk,
I
Connecticut.
know where Norwalk is. I grew up in Simsbury up north, so north of Hartford, but like
Okay.
almost in Massachusetts. So I know where
All right,
Norwalk
so
is.
I still
Excellent.
have family there, so we visit frequently.
Excellent.
And as a child, my mom would like send me to New York with $20, and then like I would come back with 100 and like a whole stack of new clothes. But that's So when I was 5, when I was 5, my my parents moved to Florida because they're like, you know what, it's too cold. We're Colombian. And so, yeah, I'm Colombian. My parents were both born in Medellin and went to Florida, started and moved to Tamarack, which is where I chipped my brother's tooth. And then from there, moved to Coral Springs. And I kind of grew up there, went to high school, started my banking career in Florida. And from that point, I actually did my undergrad at Florida Atlantic University, and then I did my MBA at Barry University. So that is my school experience, right? More my school history. But then there came a time where I told myself, you know what? And this is how I said it. I would say, I want to experience living somewhere else before I die. Now, mind you, I don't plan on dying anytime soon, right?
Good,
But
good.
you just never know. You
Let's
never
just
know.
make
You
sure it
know,
doesn't happen on this podcast just for like legal reasons, like
we'll
or
try.
something.
We'll try. We'll try. I think we'll be fine. And so with that, I decided, you know what, I need to go move somewhere. So I started applying for jobs, and it just kind of didn't happen. And then I was like, okay, like eeny, meeny, miny, mo, like where do I go? Really, really. I heard great things about Chicago, and so I decided to move to Chicago. And I had not been to Chicago. I applied for jobs. They flew me in for interviews, and I was there for a whole week, and I had 6 interviews. And at that point, everyone offered me a job, basically. And I started working for a bank in Chicago, and did that for some time. It was great. Chicago was a great time living there. And then 2.5 years ago, actually 3.5 years ago, it was announced that Fifth Third was buying MB Financial. And at that point is when things started changing, and in the end of the merger, I received the role of manager of inclusion and diversity, and Fifth Third moved me to Cincinnati. So it was an exciting time, and I was ready to leave Chicago and try something new, and so I could not just walk away from this opportunity. It really was an opportunity for me. So I was very thankful to continue with the bank and move to Cincinnati.
So, culturally, Florida, Chicago, weather-wise, temperate climate, going to the Windy City. Like, talk us through a little bit of what you expected Chicago to be versus what you ended up experiencing in the time that you were there.
Well, I mean, you talk about the weather, and I will say that I was not clothed properly when I was there for my interviews. I'm even told like today, like, yeah, he didn't even like have gloves on. So I moved to Chicago or not moved. Yeah, moved. Sorry. I moved to Chicago the weekend after the blizzard, the big blizzard that they had, the Snowmageddon or whatever it was called. And that was 10.5 years ago. And if someone is from Chicago, lived there 2.5 years, and they're listening, they know exactly what I'm talking about. My boss even called me to say, "Are you sure you're still coming?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I
Yeah,
am. Like,
yeah, I'm
I don't know
like
what you're
actually
talking
here.
about."
I bought
Yeah,
a shovel.
exactly. So I'd say I didn't know what I was getting myself into when it came to weather, because I had never been to Chicago
Yeah.
other than when I was there for interviews. But I will say that Chicago was just incredible overall. And when it came to the life, the gay life was really big. And there was the neighborhood called Boys Town, and,
Yep.
and I'm sure you've heard of Boys Town, and it really was thriving. And I moved a little not in Boys Town. I was in Lakeview still, which is where the I guess the city or the neighborhood, the bigger neighborhood, and I can probably walk to the closest gay bar in 10 minutes. But I will say this, that when I was interviewing for my role, people would be like, "But why are you leaving Florida?" And I'm like, "Well, what do you mean why?" I was asked that so many times living in Chicago, why I left Florida, which is
Huh.
very interesting. Yeah.
Well, like, and Chicago, like, iconically has it is one of the two homes of house music, right? Like it is New York and Chicago, and that's it. Like, and frankly, I will always side with Chicago in my personal opinion. But like the dance music scene's incredible. There's amazing clubs and all of these things. Like it is kind of in its own way a bit of a gay mecca that people don't think about in the Midwest.
Well, I mean, no, I think people do think about it, and
Outside of the Midwest, right? Like I think that like
sure.
people are like, well, no, it's Miami and right and Provincetown in New England, and then it's like no, but in the Midwest, Chicago's the joint.
Yeah, you just keep your shirt on a little bit more because I don't know. I feel like
Because it's
when you're in
cold.
LA, or well, yes, and so you get to, I guess gain a little bit more weight than if you were in Florida or in California, because everybody's working out like every
Right,
day. And you're
exactly.
like,
But you
gosh,
need it
yeah,
to survive. Like you need it to
Right, yeah, it's
survive.
warmth. It's like, seals have extra.
Right.
Just try to stay warm.
Yes.
my first winter was definitely, I would say I stayed in a lot, ate a lot of pizza, and it was like I felt like it was like freshman 15, right? But
Right, it's
yeah.
like
You were
quintessential
nesting.
quintessential Chicago experience.
Yeah.
Yes,
But
for
I
sure.
but I like that. And I think that your experience of I want to live somewhere else, it to me it coincides with that line of thinking of people asking you, why are you leaving Florida for Chicago? And it's like, well, because I want to experience this. Like, okay, you can say that you don't like it, but everybody that lives somewhere where they like have complaints or want to bitch and moan about what it is, like no one's stuck. Like no one is tied to where you are specifically. Yeah, there's complications of, trying to find a job or things like that, but
Yeah.
if you really hate where you live and want to experience something else, like go. Like
Right. And
try.
and and I and I will say that people did not think I was leaving Chicago, right? I was like, by the way, I'm moving to Cincinnati, peace. And everyone was like, are you for real? And I was like, yeah, I'm leaving. They just, they couldn't imagine it. But yeah, so I'm here now, and it's been now 2.5 years.
Well,
That's
and I
excellent.
think in the Midwest, Cincinnati's a little bit of an underdog big city. Like we're not, we don't make most people's map in terms of like culture or scale or anything like that. But I think if you're for you being in the banking industry or being in any sort of corporate, like I mean, hell, you can put Cincinnati's corporate like clientele up against just about any big city in the country because
Oh,
we've got
oh,
some
yeah.
big boys in
Large
Cincinnati
large
to
companies.
bring some money in. So, but yeah, I mean, it's always funny though when you move to something like that when just people's reaction if you're leaving, like they take it personally somehow.
Yeah, no, I agree. But culturally, there is one show that I watch. And have you seen Money Heist?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well, it's a show from Spain.
Okay.
And it's and I guess we're keeping the theme of banking, right? Because it's basically robbers robbing a bank, and they're not just robbing a bank. They'll they basically are like professional robbers, and so they do different things, or rob different areas, so to
Institutions,
speak.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the show, there are two people. They have a child, and they call it. Well, let me go back a little bit. Every character, every robber, so they don't say their real name. They have a city name, and so there are some really awesome names like Bogota. Um, I I forget all the names, and now I'm blanking, right? Because I'm live on podcast. But they do have a child, two people, and they named their child Cincinnati, and so and it's on Netflix. So if you happen to see it, you'll fall in love with it. It's just great. You want the robbers to succeed, but that's how it is, right?
I'm always good for a good criming, a good crime in that way.
Yeah, 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 for sure.
So I hear tell that your love affair with bikes as an adult kind of caught fire in Chicago, that you kind of found bikes as an adult in Chicago. And I think a lot of people find bikes later in their life, even if they just had them as kids, right? I had a weirder affair with them when I was younger, where I thought I was going to be a professional tour rider, which was definitely not happening because I had none of the infrastructure and I'm a horrible athlete. But I still put them aside for a long period of time because it's a toy, right? And for some people it's transportation, and for other people it isn't. But where did bikes step into your life as an adult? You're living in
Yeah.
Chicago, and there was a moment.
Yeah, so I would say that it was through work. I mean, I think we're going to be talking about banking, we're going to be talking about biking, and then we're going to be talking about like my personal life, right? But it really, those are the main topics, and they're going to keep on repeating itself. But I would say at work, at the Chicago bank that I worked at, we were really involved in the community, and I was very involved with the LGBT community as as a gay banker, right? And part of it is I want their business, but I also want to provide great service to them as well. And I was part of this group, which we ended up forming a business resource group in the future. But I was part of this group that would really network and look for business from the LGBT community.
Hmm.
And I was part of a steering committee for Start Out, which is an entrepreneurship organization for the LGBT community. And this was more of a national organization. And through them, I met someone else that stepped down from the board of Start Out or the steering committee, but then introduced me to TPAN, said, hey, I am on the board of TPAN. TPAN is Test Positive Awareness Network. It's an organization that provides services for those infected from HIV, AIDS, or other sexually transmitted diseases, right? They do other things, and really they've opened up their the spectrum, I guess, of what they do, the services, even further in today's world. But I guess I approached them from a banking perspective. And with that, very easy to talk to, right? Because I'm an LGBT individual, so talking to an organization that supports the LGBT community. And with that, we started a relationship, a banking relationship, right? Just banking.
It's hard to establish other relationships with organizations. I don't know that there's a descriptor for that.
It's hard to put that down on paper. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm single, and so like me in relationships just don't always work, but banking wise they do. Right?
There you go. That's the key, right?
Yeah. But and so we started a banking relationship, and with that, I started gaining some more business from the organization. With that, I learned that they do a ride called the Ride for Life. Or actually it was called Ride for AIDS, and they changed the name afterwards to Ride for Life. And they did the Ride for AIDS. And so I said, okay, well, we're going to sponsor the event as a bank, but then we're also going to volunteer, and we provided a volunteer opportunity for our employees to participate. So we decided to support them, do a pit stop right in like the outskirts of Chicago, because this ride, just to give you a perspective or idea, and really this is how it was back then, they would go from Chicago to Wisconsin, and they would ride 100 miles north, and then they would stay at a campground, like a cabin campground area, and then they would ride back 100 miles south. So as a pit stop person, you had to, I guess, take care of this pit stop for 2 days, right? For Saturday and for Sunday. So we had our spot, and we basically were able to support them. And so riders started, because we had the first pit stop, riders like went in right away. And some people didn't even like stop and get stuff because it was the first pit stop. Who wants to stop at the first pit stop?
No, we're feeling great. I
be.
just started.
Yeah.
Exactly. But then those that stopped, I was able to meet them, whatnot. And that was it. It went by really, really, really fast. And then afterwards, and I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself for good with talking about this. I don't know where we are with the story or with the agenda. But then the next day on Sunday, it was time for them to ride back. And guess what? We were the last pit stop.
Yes.
So at that point,
different experience.
It was a totally different experience. And at that point, we had people beat up, were just like, wanting to get there but are tired, and they're just they've already experienced the whole 24 hours of being together and, being up there and accomplishing a century. And so at this point, they're going to accomplish a double century, right? 200 miles. And it was just great to see. It was great to see. And one of my friends that worked with me, who I happened to know from Florida when I lived in Florida, and ended up getting a job with MB Financial, was like, "Do you want to do the ride next year?" And I was like, okay, like sure. Like it was his idea, not mine. So decided that I would participate the next year.
So does that mean doing the 100, or are there different route options that you could have picked from?
So at that point, it was just a double century, and like all or nothing, right?
Ugh.
All or nothing. But
I
then
mean,
now
yeah.
it's different. It is different now, and actually they do allow like just if you want to do a century. And now this past year, well, actually during the pandemic, it was like we're probably going virtual, and so you can virtually ride your bike, which really
Cool.
means you're not. But we're raising money. We're raising money, and
Sure.
it is. But then some people also rode on their own, right,
Yeah.
during the pandemic, which is great. But then now, with their new leadership, they did like 100, I think 75, 50, or 25. And I don't think they're doing double centuries anymore, but I did a double century probably three. I think I did it 3 times. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So okay, so talk about the first, your first kind of dipping the toe in the water. Once you decided you're gonna do it, you got to
Yeah.
go find a bike. You gotta
Yep.
get the
Yep. Yep. Yep.
the full baptism by fire of don't wear underwear
Yep.
with shorts and all of the things that we've all learned along the way. Like, talk us through your experience walking into cycling as somebody coming
Yeah.
in super green.
Yeah. So I decided again, I guess we're gonna do it, and it's time to buy a bike. And at this point, it was just me looking for a bike with my friends in Chicago. So we stopped by a bike shop. I forget the name of it, but it was right by my house. And I basically said like, I need a road bike. And they showed me a bike. It was a Specialized. I guess it was love at first sight because it was like, okay, this is it, right? It was my size, and it was $1,000. And that is my $1,000 bike that I have right now. And at that point, I'm like, that's a lot, right? And then I come to find out that there are way more expensive bikes than my baby Specialized. But I decided to buy that, and then a friend of mine that did the ride prior was helping me buy stuff, right? So I bought this helmet that like I don't know, moved and did things that I didn't need it to do. And I realized after I didn't need to buy it, but it was the most expensive helmet. So I'm like, why not? And then I bought the gloves. I got the pedals. I ended up getting the pedals that are for is it for mountain bikes? It's not it's not the ones that, because there's a triangle, right?
Yep.
When you
Yep.
when you snap
Three
on,
walk.
and
Yeah.
Where you
then
walk
what's
like a
the other
duck.
one? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't walk like a duck. My shoes actually have like I can walk on it. Do you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about?
no, I ride mountain bike shoes on the road because it just makes more sense. Like I have to
Yeah.
walk around. Like
Yeah.
I don't need to slip everywhere and like feel like I'm on ice. If I want to do that, I'll buy ice skates.
Exactly. And so then you know what I'm talking about. So I got those types of clip-ons, and to be honest, I don't plan on changing them because they're great. So I went through that whole experience of buying stuff, and I think it went well. Where I don't The one thing I regretted was that helmet. That I ended up buying a cheaper helmet a year later because it was just such a pain. I ended up giving it to one of my friends that I got him to do the ride like the year after, and he started to buy stuff, and I'm like, well, let me just give you this expensive helmet that I didn't like.
It does not fit me
Um,
and is not
it-
appropriate for me.
yeah, exactly. And so with that, I'd say that overall, the buying bike process was fun, and um, I felt, I guess, ready to do a ride.
How did that first like that first long ride, right? Because like you get out and you may do 5 miles, you may do 10 miles, and that may feel like it's long when you're first starting out, right? Because you're just kind of getting into it. But like if you have any level of fitness, you're like, ooh, 5 or 10 miles, and you come back and you're like, ooh, some things are tight. That's weird. I've not done this in a while. But what was that first like long ride where you had that one where you're like, this is going to be an all-day affair? What was that feeling like for you? Because I think
Yeah.
a lot of people approach that with fear, and I think that's a normal reaction.
Well, I will say that TPN did a great job at prepping you because we would do practice rides over the weekend, and you would start with like 25 and then 45 and then 60, 75, go back down to 60, and just kind of they had a whole training prepared. So when it came down to doing a double century, I mentally was ready. I was anxious though, and kind of wondering how it will be. But I will say that when I reached 100 miles, like I got a little emotional. I didn't cry. I almost kind of did, but I didn't. You know that feeling that just like, and
Yeah,
it's
he
just nothing,
he has it
nothing
like
happened.
every day.
Oh,
There's
okay.
Multiple
Well,
times.
somebody
though,
Yeah.
dog on TV or something, and Doug's getting misty.
Yeah. I think about some stuff and I'll just start crying. It's fine.
Yeah.
well, I hope my story doesn't make you cry
No,
today.
probably will. It's okay.
But I will say that it was emotional doing the double century for sure because it just kind of felt just like I accomplished something, right? And I know for others that do their first double century or even a century, they will definitely feel emotional about it as well because it is an accomplishment. I see it as running a marathon, which I would never consider doing. I feel like that is like a crazy animal to tackle, or what an Ironman. I feel like that's even bigger. But for me, cycling just seemed like something I could do. It was I was more mentally in it than anything because of the preparation that TPAN provided.
So, having run the rest stop, the first one on Saturday, the last one on Sunday, you got to see people in all different facets of physical and emotional
And,
stress.
and in
Um,
skirts. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, what were like? Was it Saturday or Sunday? Because I got to believe over the course of 200 miles, you had something happened, whether it was between your ears or it was physical or something like that, where you're like, oh boy, this is like I gotta dig in. Like what was your experience that weekend of like the mental fortitude kicking in? Like I want to get this done, but I have to overcome this specific hurdle.
For me, I when I think back about those experiences, I do remember being, feeling tired and continuing. And if you want my honesty, I also don't think I had my bike set up properly, right? Like my gears were not where they needed to be. And I feel like it was probably more challenging because of my inexperience of knowing how to use my bike, honestly. And I will tell you that there were other people that were on the ride and they were friends there, or really they became friends during that time. So it wasn't so much of a challenge. It was more of a great experience of getting to meet new people, a new community, and the support, the pit stops, everything that was included really allow everyone to succeed. And really, if you're falling behind, they'll pick you up and they'll take you to the next pit stop or really take you just to the end. But let's talk about how I felt in the end. I could not sit. It was difficult to walk. It was just the most challenging. It was just the most challenging feeling. And I would say that I don't feel that anymore. Like that one time. That one time was killer. And I couldn't believe how hard I was feeling at that point, how bad.
I love that, like that experience. I think of anybody who bites off something that is larger than them is something that we share, right? And there is that excitement of doing it and the commitment to it, and having a team around you and a group of people who are all trying to achieve the same thing makes that easier to bite off, because there are other people that like put their arms around you or, push you, figuratively or literally.
Literally, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that kind of environment is something that whether you're on a 5 mile ride or doing 200 miles over the course of 2 days, right? That experience of that community is kind of what it's about. It's kind of like
Mhm.
like John always says, the golf shot, right? Like people play golf and they're horrible at it, but then they have that one shot. They're like, haha, I might be
Yeah.
good at this. And they keep coming back
Yeah.
because you have this like moment of clarity and enjoyment. And I love that, like through all that pain, we all have that, but there's this moment of enjoyment and that community. Did you fall deeper into cycling? Like you had this event that you trained for, and you said you did it 3 times. So you obviously went back to the well, but like, did this have another effect on your life as far as recreation? Did you get involved in cycling more because of this one thing? Some people just ride specifically for charity events, but like, did this become more of your day to day in life?
Well, in Chicago, I'd say that it is a city that you could ride. And I'm sorry, cars that were behind me that hated, when I was cycling on the street, on the street that didn't have a bike pathway. But I will say that I started using my bike more once I got home from work, for sure. It was just a great way to commute, especially on Mondays. I used to play volleyball, sand volleyball in the summer. So I would ride my bike to our beach in Chicago, play volleyball, and then ride my bike to the bar that would sponsor us and just have a great time and then just go back home. So I would say that after work, definitely a great way. And really, I tried to use it when I was going to work too, sometimes, not a whole ton, but there were times where I would commute on my bicycle, but I just didn't like the whole changing from work. Because when you're in banking, like the last thing you want to do is like just keep on changing into work clothes, and where you're going to put your work clothes in your backpack. Like it didn't go well. But I'd say overall, I started cycling more when it's closer, so that I could benefit from kind of being healthier. Because in my age, I'm 37 now, and we got to look for ways to be healthy. But I will say that for the ride, it was also about raising money for the cause as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So in this, you mentioned the word community. You mentioned some obviously hot button topics for us of making new friends, meeting new people, and feeling more part of a larger group, whether it's raising money or it's accomplishing something together, as Doug said. So as you've gone over these 3 years of doing the ride multiple times, how did your engagement with cycling increase over that amount of time? I mean, we've already talked a little bit about you commuting to work, but I got to believe by training and getting ready for these events, you're making more friends, you're expanding your own personal network and doing a lot of those things. So I got to believe that your riding also changed as well.
Well, so yeah, I got more involved with the organization because I banked them as well, right? And so I ended up becoming part of the steering committee of the ride, which it's like story of my life.
All
I
in.
joining
Yeah.
a board. I'm doing
Yeah.
this. How many times have I like already? I already told you I was
At
part of
least
Star now.
3. Yeah. I hear
Yeah,
you.
right.
Like, I
Like,
feel
oh
your
my
pain.
gosh. Like I have to do it. And so joining the steering committee for TPAN was just great, right? And I was encouraging other people to do it. But at that point, I also formed my own team. And my team, it was Team MB Financial, and then the last year ended up being Team Fifth Third Bank because we sponsored. But I would recruit my friends, and a lot of my friends joined, and got a bike and kind of did different things. But I will say that when it came to friendships in Chicago, I didn't have friendships that would evolve or would revolve around my bike. Now in Cincinnati, things are a little different. I'm going to say this, but I have two friends that I cycle with, and we call ourselves the cycling daddies. And
Yes. Yes.
we have a snap group, or I don't even know how you call that, but we are cycling daddies there. But we also have a text group, so the three of us are always communicating with one another. And I don't want to skip, but I would say that when we talk about friendships in during the pandemic, cycling was just such a great activity where you were away from people. And let's just say the cycling daddies took advantage of the whole pandemic, and every weekend we just kept on riding, and we did different rides, and it's been a fun experience as a cycle daddy.
That's excellent. I absolutely totally want John to design all your merchandise. I feel like there's a whole like legit specific Venn diagram that
Uh-huh.
operates in a very specific space on the internet, on Twitter, and I feel like we could make a lot of money there. Just saying, just a specific spot. Um,
Opportunity.
right,
TM,
opportunity
TM,
knocks. So,
TM,
yeah.
TM, TM, TM.
Yeah, TM, TM, TM. You own it, Steven. It's all your idea, right? John will just figure out how to merchandise it for you.
Yeah, yeah.
But it is like, and even if your relationships in Chicago don't necessarily, you know, form around cycling because you didn't approach that community from that space. When you arrived here in Cincinnati, cycling was a piece of that. But I know for you, a big piece of your story was how cycling has reconnected you to relationships in your personal life that are outside of the people that we gather with us as we move through life, right? Like you've lived multiple places. We've gathered people, all of us, as we've moved different places. But cycling reunited you with your dad in some ways. And I think
Yeah.
that's kind of interesting. So when did you kind of make that connection? Like, oh, I like bikes. My dad likes bikes. Maybe this is a thing that could be something we do together.
Yeah, I never thought that. But it was more like that's not how it started, right?
Right. Yeah.
It was more that I was cycling, and then my dad's like, I want to do one of those rides. And I'm just like, okay.
What?
What?
And I didn't really understand what my, like my dad's saying he wants to do a double century. He started seeing me do that. And then I realized, you know what, my dad cycles too. And like he really wants to do this ride. Now, at that point, I was like, cool, I'm glad he likes the fact that I ride. But I, like, at that point, I was probably, I'd say like 32, 33, maybe 32, I'd say. And my dad's telling me he wants to do a ride with me. And actually, I did a ride in Miami. So it's from Miami to Key West. It was I think 165 miles. And that one, my dad's like, I want to do that one. And I'm just like, I hesitated. And it's because the rides that I do support the LGBT community, right? And I will say that I had not been out to my dad at that point. I came out to my mom at 17, and my mom was like, "Don't tell dad." And I'm just like,
Oh,
okay. So
great.
like, here I
What?
am, here
Thanks
I
for
am,
the,
like
yeah, great.
30,
Thanks, Mom.
32 years old. And my mom's like, "Don't tell dad." And I'm like, okay. Like, just like listen to
Jeez.
mom. And that's kind of a thing. And so when it came to these rides, I kind of hesitated, and I was just like, is he going to join? I understand, like, he's telling me like, I want to go. Like he was like texting me, telling me how much he wants to do one of these rides. And then I realized how much he enjoys cycling, right? And that's kind of where it started to connect. So I was like, gosh, I would love for him to do one of these rides, but my mom doesn't want him to know that I'm gay.
Right, because it's like,
And
how is it not going to come up that, like, well,
At one
Steven,
point.
there's a connection to all of these rides that you're doing. I'm noticing a pattern here. Like, should we, like,
well,
how is that not gonna, like, at some point come up?
listen, he knew I was gay, and that's all
Right.
I
Yeah.
have to
He's
say,
your
right?
father.
Like,
He knows.
exactly. There were definitely episodes where he would have known that I was gay growing up. And so, but that's another podcast. I think that
That's a
covers.
sister podcast that I have. I'm not allowed to promote it on our channel.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd say that.
So here's a question for you. Do you think that part of your dad's reaching out to you as incessantly as you were like, hey, maybe this isn't the right venue for dad to be here, given what your mom had told you, but do you think part of that was him trying to say, hey, I see you, and I am glad you're cycling. That's cool. But was it him reaching out to you to try to establish that link a little bit?
So you're blowing my mind because I never thought of it that way. But it's always interesting when you talk to other people, right? They always have a different point of view. And I'm just like, whoa, like you're attacking my feelings right now. Because it was something oblivious to me, I would say. But I don't think he was doing that, but maybe he was. I honestly have no idea. But the way that I saw it is he just wanted to do a ride. And I saw it as simple as that. Because sexuality was never anything we talked about. It was never, he was never asking me, you know, when am I going to have a girlfriend? Nothing. I think he just wanted to ride. But you bring up a great point. He could have. And I was probably oblivious to it.
Well, what at the time? What was your relationship with him like? Like, what was kind of your level of engagement in each other's lives?
We'll text. I FaceTime my mom a lot. And through my mom's FaceTimes in Florida, I live in Florida, through my mom's FaceTimes, I would see my dad, right? And we would text and we would have a group family text that we would talk amongst each other. And we still have that, right? But further than that, I would say that that was it. I would see him and I love my dad, right? I'm all about family. My parents are everything for me. So I would say that at that point it was texting, it was um, being, my dad and caring about my dad, but also being private about my personal life.
Yeah. So where does the corner turn and you finally let him get the screws into you and be like, all right, cool, we're coming, come and do this ride. What did you guys do together as your first big ride together? And what was that
Yeah,
experience like?
yeah. I would say that my dad is like, I want to do it right. I want to do it right. And I'm like, how am I going to do this when he doesn't, or I can't tell him that I'm gay, right? Because I wasn't allowed to. So I talked to my mom and I'm like, Mom, and she's gonna hate me for saying this. So I hope she never hears this, right?
It's all right. We won't
But
tell her where the podcast is. It's fine. Oh,
and I was like, Mom, I like dad wants to do a ride, but it's a really gay ride. And like I want to tell him that I'm gay. And she's like, no, you can't. You can't. I'm like, okay. Okay. So then I didn't, right? But then the way I saw it was I signed my dad up for the ride. And it was really hard for me to do because by signing my dad up, that was my timeline to come out to my dad.
Yeah.
So it was like it wasn't just signing him up. It was I'm
Signing you
coming out
up.
to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was yeah. It was signing him up before that. Well, and coming out to him before that period. And that is what that meant for me when I enrolled him and I was like, Dad, here you go. But I didn't tell my mom that, right? And so yeah, that's kind of what happened.
Okay, so
Or not
were
kind of,
were
it
y-
did.
were you were you conscious of that specific fact during that time of signing it up? Okay, so if we're going on Doug's line of thinking of, was your dad reaching out to you to soften the soil? Were you delaying it because you knew that was the inevitability of signing, like getting him involved in one of these rides meant you had a timetable, you specifically as Steven, to have this conversation with your dad?
Correct, because there's no way that we would have done the ride
no.
and he would not have seen all the gay people,
Something would have
right?
come
Like
up.
yeah, and for sure he saw some things when he
Sure.
eventually did it.
Things he may not ever unsee. And that's totally fine. Probably a
Yes.
great experience for him.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
Yep.
so I don't, your experience with your father and that specific moment is that is your moment. And everyone's story in that space is specific to them. But how was that ride with him when the two of you set off on this and spent this time together in what like is sometimes the most honest and open space that you guys may have been in together in a while? What was
Well,
that experience like?
it was probably the only like the one-on-one time that we had, right? Where it was just us two. And by the way, I still haven't shared my coming out experience because that's a great story too. But it's part of the story, right? But I would say that my experience with my father, it really was great. He rode with my friends because I had recruited, I think, 7 of my friends, and so they all knew who my dad was. My dad was one of the best ones there, right? He just kept cycling, like running laps around me. And I'm just like, Dad, you don't have to show off, right? And not just that, but I will say this, my dad, if there were superlatives for that weekend, my dad would have won best dressed because he was like the most fabulous looking person on that ride, I will say. And then again, with his great cycling skills, he definitely showed off during that time. And it was an awesome time for us together. We definitely bonded. We He almost got hit by a car too.
Oh,
Actually, he kind of
geez.
did. His bike ended up scratching a car that was making a right turn, and it's like, well, yeah, good. I'm glad that that car got scratched because it's like, do you not see that my dad was right there and like next to you? He almost got hit. Um, I don't want anything bad for anyone though. But overall, it was just great. My dad also felt great because he never had done a double century, so this was his moment to do a double century. It was his longest distance that he'd ever done. So think about his experience as well. But overall, I'd say that my dad got to know me a little bit more with my friends, and I couldn't call him daddy that weekend. That's for sure.
So
So, because
Not that phrase. Yeah.
so yeah, so we talked a little bit about it after your first double century weekend of how you
yeah,
felt, what some of the emotions were, what some of the physical outcomes were. But for this weekend with your dad, going through all of these experiences, going through the lead up, which I guess you want to touch on next, but um, how hindsight, looking back on the entire weekend, being with your friends, being with your dad in that very vulnerable moment of having all of that private time and having this weight of 17 years of like, well, we can't, like, this one thing is just off limits. We can't talk about it, whether or not we both acknowledge that it exists. Like, we just can't acknowledge it. And now he's a part of it. He's embracing it. He's fully enveloped in the entire thing, and he's having the time of his life. Like, thinking back on that whole weekend, what is your takeaway on it, just from an emotional perspective?
so what I will say now is the fact that my dad and I now have a bond with cycling, a bond where when I'm with my dad, we cycle together in Florida, right? And if he comes here, we're getting a bike, and guess what? We're cycling with my cycle daddy friends, and which we have. So it has been awesome where we already know that we're going to cycle when we see each other. It's where will we be going? There's that bond that I didn't have as a child, which is interesting to learn about as you get older. And it's like, really, I am a replica of my dad body wise. And then I like cycling just like him too. And how did that happen? Because I didn't learn that from my dad. I learned it from Chicago.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's that. But then it was also emotional because, as I told you, this ride raised money for those living with HIV/AIDS, and actually, my dad's brother died of AIDS. So
Jeez.
there was that emotional aspect. He died when I was like 5 years old, living in Tamarack. I told you that time that I chipped my brother's tooth. It was around that period, and I will say that it was such a great experience because all my dad wanted to do was ride, right? He didn't realize what we were riding for. And once he did, once I explained it to him, I think it meant even more for my dad because of those moments of his brother. So wanted to share that aspect of it.
That that hits on so many levels, and I'm sure it did for him. Like in
Yeah.
that space to just he's stacking all of those, all of the meaning of that, his personal achievement, your involvement, his involvement familially. That's not a word.
No, you got it.
Did I?
Yeah,
I tried.
you got it.
Whatever. It
I
sort
think
of
we
got
understood it. I think
Yeah,
we
you got it.
understood it.
You understood the gist.
Yeah.
I think that's an amazing like little coda to that piece of the story. That's wild.
Yeah, and it was kind of just something that I'd say in general, again, cycling brought us together, but then I think my dad was proud to ride for his brother who again died at a young age and is also part of the reason why I do the ride as well. And I raise money for those living with HIV and AIDS. So I'd say it was, again, coming out, bonding with cycling, riding for the cause, for a cause that impacts my dad as well. And at this point, it's a bond that I did not think that we would have, and it happened in my 30s. It didn't happen in my 20s. Like, it happened as a grown up, overall, and so I'd say that I'm thankful for it, because I know that there will always be that bond overall with my dad, no matter what period of life we are in.
Yeah. Well, and Doug kind of skipped over it, because I get the sentiment of you coming out to your dad is your story. Not everybody wants to share that, but then you mentioned that you wanted to tell the story. So I think it's moving kind of past the cycling aspect of it and moving into the purely, personal connection piece of it. If you want to share the story, we're here
Yeah.
to let you tell it, because I mean, it's I think any time that you can have the experience of hearing someone's story and hearing the depth of challenge, or just the volume of things that come with it, I think it gives everybody a little bit more empathy and compassion.
Yeah. And so I told you that when I signed up for the ride, it meant that I had to come out. Right.
Yeah, there's a definite deadline
TikTok,
of the time I
TikTok.
must share this with you.
Yeah. And so I would call my mom and I'd be like, Mom, I'm gonna come out. No, you're not. Right. And then like would just shove me back in the closet. And I'm like, Mom, like I
It's so
need
good.
to. She's like, no, you're not going to. And we're talking in Spanish, right? Not in English. And so she would just be like, no, you're not going to. And I'm just like, Mom, like I feel like I need to. And she's like, no, you're not. And this didn't just happen in a day. This happened in a period of time,
So
right?
not to interject, but did she give you any more depth beyond no, you can't? Did
I
she give you a
mean,
why?
she just so, and I will tell you why. It's because image is so important in Colombia, and image, how you look, who you're hanging out with, whatever, presentation is just everything, right? I know people in Colombia that their home look nice, but their bedroom looks like crap. Why? Because that's the one room that they don't go, and so they don't even renovate that room. And it's like, you should renovate that room, because that's like the place where you sleep. But
Yeah.
I've seen that in Colombia. Okay. And we're not talking bad about Colombia, and I'm not
No,
talking about every person in Colombia, but it is more than the United States, more than many places that I've seen where people care about image that
yeah, it's
much.
culturally relevant to that specific space.
Yeah. So my mom, correct. So my mom would always think that being gay would tarnish my image, that being gay would change the way people view me in life. And to be honest, yeah, it happens to people, right? It happens probably to all of us. But I'm not worried about what someone's gonna think. MB Financial paid my paycheck, right? And they knew I was gay, and I was getting business from gay companies, employers,
Right,
and
right.
I
It's
I
working
was,
out.
yeah, I was networking a ton out of it. And it wasn't bad. If anything, it was great to be gay. So with that, I was just like, Mom, sorry, but the people that I work for pay me and they know I'm gay. So I am going to come out to him. And she's like, no, right? Like the world is going to end. It's collapsing. So I decided, I think it was like February or March. I didn't wait. I think I signed him up for the ride. I believe it was December. And then January, February came, and February is when I decided to come out with my dad. And I had already told my mom, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And
She's
I,
bracing for this. She's like, oh my
oh
God,
my
the world
gosh,
is going to end. Yeah.
completely. And I text my dad. So then I start texting him and I'm like, hi, dad. I just want you to know, you may already know, but I just want to share with you that I'm gay. So I text him. And then I get a call back, and it's my dad. And my dad's like, hey, baby. He calls me baby. He's like, hey, baby, I love you. You're healthy. Don't worry. I got to go back to work. Bye. And just like left me, like right there. So I was like, okay, I guess he knows, and just I felt like a weight was lifted, off my shoulders, and I felt a ton better with that. And so with that, once I came out to him, I at that point knew that the ride can happen and that we can raise money for HIV during that period. And I bought his flight to fly to Chicago in September. He flew his bike and we did the ride at that point.
I love the way you tell that story. First off, two things. I love your impression of your mom. Like it's just this whole interview. Your mom's impression it's spot on.
I don't
Yeah.
know if my mom's going to like it, but
No,
Oh,
it's fine.
well, yeah,
Like I
whatever.
said, she doesn't know where this link is. It's fine.
interpretive.
yes,
But
yes, yes.
but secondly, I love that your dad is like the things that aren't said are like, why did you text me that, dummy? But also, okay, all right, thanks, bye. Like it was
Yeah,
just like,
exactly.
okay, yeah, whatever. All right, bye.
He had to go.
Yeah,
Bye.
cool. We're
Yeah.
fine.
All right, cool. Yeah,
Just
good. Whatever.
carry on.
Call me. Don't text that.
Yeah, well, I could not call him. Like I just couldn't, right?
Yeah.
Like I had to text him, and so I just texted him that, and I was like, I hit send. I'm like, like what's gonna happen? And yeah, it was my way of processing it. And interestingly enough, I did that when I was 34. So I came out to my mom when I was 17, and then 17 years later, came out to my dad.
It is a process, right? We're always coming out to people in our lives, wherever we're at, in whatever different ways we need to. And I think that that's part of this. It is not straightforward. It is not always a like, wearing the badge on your sleeve. You don't operate in that space with all of the people in your life. Everybody's kind of in a different narrative because there are societal pressures, and whether it's in Colombia or whether it's in the United States or whether it's within your familial unit or whatever, there are the things that give you pause. There are the things that give you, not a concern, but just like a different methodology about going about it, and when you're comfortable sharing that stuff. So I do appreciate you sharing that, because I love how much of a non-event it was for him. Like,
yeah, but
just a total non-event. It's like all of this time you spent, like 17 years of building, 34 years of building it up for yourself, right? Well, I don't know if you could really think about it when you were one, but regardless, all this time, and then your dad's just like, you're just like, God, man,
why did you wait?
It's been like more fanfare or something.
Yeah.
So,
and he's probably on the phone just like, yeah, all right, just wait till I show up and flex on this ride. Like, you have no idea.
He's just like, finally. He's like, am I signed up though? Yeah. And again, he was the most fabulous looking. And actually I have a picture of one of them, because there's this story. If you don't mind me sharing.
Oh, please.
Can I share? So when I did the ride, everyone knew from the organization, right? From Test Positive Awareness Network, from TPAN, that I did the ride, and I did it with my dad. So everyone already knew who daddy was, right? And they do have a magazine. It's called Positively Aware. And they quoted my dad and I. Well, they took a picture of my dad and I. So I'm going to just share this, and you can see my dad all bright and looking amazing,
rocking the Lamprey Marita outfit,
looking
exactly
pro style,
exactly. Yeah, so that is my dad, and again, he was the most fabulous looking one there and had an amazing time.
I adore it. I adore it. And I love that this is a piece that now the two of you get to share, right? And continually do that. And I think that's like this is what we always seek, is places to connect with the people that
Yep.
we have in our life wherever they're at. And it's fun for us to hear how like bikes continually connect that, and whether it's through doing amazing charity rides to support amazing organizations that are doing really good works in their community, or if it's just getting out with your local daddies and going for a ride. Like I'm all
Cycle daddy.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, the cycle daddies, they are legit, like, and crushing Devu out here, ripping hills, like this, like those relationships and those bonds and the investment of that, I think is good for the community in general. And it's exciting to see that that's something you've like brought to Cincinnati as well and has become part of your life here. So like, what are you doing as far as like riding right now? You ride with the cycle daddies, you guys get out and do stuff. Are you like trying to get involved in like charity rides here? Is there anything that like you've got that you're like cooking up in the basement that you're excited about trying to make happen? How can we help make cool stuff like that happen? Like, what's up? Like, let's figure this out.
Well, I will say that right now my bike is in the garage and I don't know if I'm going to see it until like, I don't know, April.
Yeah, well, correct.
It's
Come on, did
cold
you
right
lose all
now.
that time
It's
in
cold.
Chicago?
Yeah,
It's not
it's
as
cold.
cold
It's,
here.
well, it's cold and it's dark all the time now too.
Listen, yeah, it's cold, and I will say this: I don't ride a lot during the winter. I kind of park it, and because it's cold for me, and I just
Well,
don't
you're
like being
Colombian.
in
Yeah,
the cold.
this been established. You're Colombian. Like
Yes,
this isn't
we're
your
warm.
weather.
Exactly, exactly. And so I will say that right now, there's like a quick pause, but there's another friend that I ride with separately, from another group of friends, and we actually we go to 50 West up to Loveland, have a great time with a group of friends that also bought bikes, but I can't say that they ride. I hope they don't listen to this. Also, no, I think they know that they're great. They ride great, but I don't think they want to ride long distance, right? Whereas my one friend and we will typically ride as well. So it's between the cycle daddies and then this one friend where we're like, hey, let's go cycling. I'm like, yes, let's do it, and we'll do what 30 miles, 40 miles. It just kind of depends on the day, but overall, I'm not looking to do. In the beginning, I was looking to do a ride for a cause, but it wasn't something like I haven't found anything that connects me yet. People have talked about it, but I didn't sign up for something that they shared. So there really hasn't been anything where I'm like, yes, I have to do it. I will say though that this past, I want to say it was September. Oh no, maybe it was July. July, I did ride, and I with my friends, the cycle daddies. They had never done a long distance ride, and I was like, let's go from our home to Yellow Springs, right? Yellow Springs,
Hmm.
right
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Ohio. Yeah,
yeah,
where Dave Chappelle
Yep.
yeah,
is from.
exactly.
Well, so we said, let's do Yellow Springs. I'm like, yeah, okay. So we were training prior to Yellow Springs, although this year's training was different because people were opening up, the pandemic, and less riding time. 2020 was a great riding year. 2021 got slower because everyone started getting busy, and it's like
Yeah,
I can't
life
do this
happened.
weekend. I can't do exactly. Yeah, but we rode from our home in Oakley to Yellow Springs, stayed overnight, and then rode back. So that was a fun time. And I know you asked before, like, how does it feel to ride long distance? I would say that it's a work day. It's a work day where imagine yourself starting to ride at 8 o'clock and you work until what, 5? And that's probably when I finish my century after like having lunch, after taking pit stop breaks and whatnot. So I explain to people that a century is like a full work day.
Hmm.
I think it's good to look at it that way because
Yeah.
it's unless you've done it, I think they can get in your head, and I think it can be a like, oh boy, this is gonna be I'm gonna have this terrible experience or whatever, and I had tried one early in my like as getting back into cycling. Just my buddy and I left one morning and tried to do it, and I think I had gotten to like mile 70 and I had eaten like 2 Cliff Bars. and
Yeah.
it was like things fell
Were
apart.
your legs
Oh,
killing
just
you?
No,
completely cramped up, like
I've been
so
I've been
bad.
on rides with John. Like John, 2 Cliff Bars at 70 miles. We're calling an ambulance, son. Like I
Yeah.
know where you're
It's
at
it's not
at
it's
that
I
not
spot.
good.
imagine.
We need a lot of coal in the fire.
Yeah.
I
Um,
imagine.
but
Yeah.
but for me, like getting into it the exact same way you did is the MS 150 was my 2 day go somewhere, camp, ride back,
Yeah.
have everybody that I worked with that was part of my team, team
Mm.
bicycle playing cards, like oddly enough, like team bicycle riding bicycles, like it's pretty fitting. But like getting ready all season and getting ready for that weekend event and building those relationships, it's really what like launched me into like I love this community. I love what bikes can do for me personally, but also they've brought me into so many amazing people and so many
Yeah.
amazing stories along the way that it's like at this point it's like, well, I can't not keep going
Sure.
in some
It's a
fashion.
community. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a community. No, I would say for me definitely it is a community. It's a way to connect with friends. And I made a lot of acquaintances. I can't say, great friends right through cycling, but again, for me it's my dad. And as I think of my dad too, side story, he recently had a heart attack. And I don't know, I don't think John, you know this, right? No.
How's he doing?
Um, well, he's doing great. It was probably the best case scenario of a heart attack where like he's like, I don't feel good, and then decided to take himself to the hospital. And they're like, you're having a heart attack. With that, he ended up having a triple bypass surgery,
Yikes.
which is, yeah, it's pretty deep.
Wow.
And my dad's first comment is, when can I start cycling again? And because he wanted to get back on that bike, he he rides his bike every weekend, like every weekend. And again, whenever I go there, I go cycling with him. So I don't know if riding his bike is what ended up giving him the best case scenario heart attack, right? But we know how great exercise it is, but eating healthy obviously is another aspect. And who knows? My dad, who knows? I'm not going to speak for my dad or say how it happened, whatnot. But in the end, his first reaction is, when can I go cycling again? And he is recovering really well and already is cycling again. And it is his form of therapy, right? It is his way of getting back to where dad was before the heart attack, because it's a long recovery, right? Like
Yeah.
it's heart surgery. And so he has been doing well, and every day he's just sending pictures of him cycling and how many miles that he did. And he's getting to a great point. His first ride was really slow, and my brother was following him, right, making sure that everything was fine. But it was just a, let's get on the bike and see how I feel kind of a moment. But now he started doing longer distances. He's riding his car again. So it's been over 2 months now. I want to say it happened in September. So overall, thankfully, everything is great. But again, it goes back to that cycling of, when can I get on a bike after having a heart attack?
Yeah. That's wild.
Yeah,
It's
no,
just
I
like
mean, I feel it like there's like a motivation, like, no. I'm over here twiddling my thumbs. I need to be doing something. And
Yeah,
that's the thing I need to be doing. So I love that
yeah,
that's his drive. It's great.
yeah. And my dad, I'd say, if we're talking about passion with biking, that it's my dad. It's more my dad than me. And listen, I love cycling, and I have friends, and there's a whole bunch of stories, more stories, right, that we can tell. But when I think of love of cycling, I think of my dad, and think that it's just always going to be a way to connect with him. He recently came back from Colombia, and after, the heart attack, after he was able to travel, because we were doing a couple of things, and we're doing some remodeling on a home there, and he brought me back a jersey. He already mailed it to me, so I have a Colombian long sleeve jersey. So it's long sleeve, so if I want to cycle in the cold,
Yes.
I can. I just
Today would have been
don't.
an all right day to get out. It was kind
yeah.
of nice this afternoon. It was kind of nice, a little lull in the Cincinnati winter weather. So
Cold,
Well,
cold.
man, Steven, this has been amazing. And full disclosure to everybody listening, watching, whatever. Like we had ambitions to talk about your day, your day to day with Fifth Third, with diversity and inclusion. We've had so many folks come on the show to discuss it, talk about it from a nonprofit perspective, talk about it from a cycling team perspective, and we wanted
From a
to get your
guerrilla perspective.
yeah, we wanted to get your perspective talking about it from a larger corporate kind of genre. But man, here we are. We've taken up an hour and a half now with you telling your
Is it
Steven
really?
story. Yeah, we're
Is it
we're
really
at
an hour and a
Yeah,
half?
no,
right at
dude,
an
it's
hour
been
and 20
excellent. No, it's
hour and
fantastic.
25 minutes.
That's what
And
I
that
read.
No.
and
Yeah.
and that in and of itself is amazing. And I kind of wanted to close your piece on this, and then we'll do sponsor reads, and then you get to answer your last question. But I think there's so much about your story that rings to this community aspect of cycling, and it doesn't matter whether it's finding a best friend, finding your this is your community, or whatever it is. But the things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis with Fifth Third is about trying to move the needle 1 degree at a time, or a tenth of a degree at a time. And what cycling has brought you is so much more than a degree. It's completely, pinning the mercury for you in terms of giving you this entirely new relationship with your father. And we say it at the beginning of the show now, is like the only thing better than a bike ride is sharing a bike ride with a friend. And you, like, your story is so much living proof of that, of everything that you've gone through in your life, of navigating your own personal decisions and your own kind of, this is the way that I need to find it, and this is my own truth. But then bringing other people into that story as well that maybe aren't as comfortable with that, like your interpretation of your mother, along the way,
Yeah.
of just sharing those pieces of yourself with us, sharing them with our listeners, our viewers, but also sharing them with your family. Is like, those are the things of moving the needle. That, sure, you guys raise tons of money for TPAN, and you've been a part of so many organizations, and you've done so many good things outwardly, but the positive things that cycling has brought you, that I'm going to go do this and I'm going to raise money for TPAN, but then just think about all the cascading things that have come to you specifically in your little Acosta world. It's it can't go without being mentioned.
No, it's crazy, right? Because again, when I told you that day, um, that well, when you mentioned, that you do this, and then you talk about the story of how people got into cycling, like, I just felt like, okay, like, this is such an easy conversation for me. As you see, it's almost an hour and a half, and the challenging part though is, and maybe the part that I'm concerned is, like, it's so easy for me to talk about myself, and I hate that, right? Like, you guys, like, I was just so comfortable just like telling you guys the story of my life, and I'm like, I sound so into myself, and I hate that. And no,
It's
like,
all right. I'm a Leo.
uh,
Trust me. It's a battle I deal with daily. You're good. Don't worry. It's okay.
but yeah, overall, it's just been a journey, for not just my dad, but with the LGBT community, and I got to keep it from Chicago to Cincinnati. I will say that I don't ride, like, after work in Cincinnati, just because just the city feels different. And honestly, people here don't really look at bikes. Cycling in Cincinnati, you don't have many what roads for bikes. Whereas in Chicago, I think they expect you a little bit more. But overall, it's just, cycling has been so fun, so great. And I still have my $1,000 specialized bike, and I'm looking to upgrade it sometime. I'm going to have to upgrade it sometime soon. And for sure, what I will say is that cycling will continue and will always be part of my life. No matter what it is, I see it in my dad's, and I want to rock. I want to rock just like my dad at his age, and continue to allow it to keep me healthy, and ride with the friends too. So overall, yeah, through the raising money for HIV and AIDS, through my dad, through my friends, through the bank, because in the bank it just connected too. And those are all the parts of my life. And with all of that, I would say that, yeah, for sure, it will continue to create more stories for me. It's probably going to be another hour and a half of me
We're
talking
good with
about.
that. We're totally good with that.
Well, that was
totally good with that.
That was kind of what I was teeing up, because I
Yeah.
feel like
No.
we could. Well, first off, we have
Oh
an
my god.
hour on Doug's LGBTQ conversation.
Yep. We
But
got
then
an
we
hour on
probably
that.
at least have another. I think at some point we're gonna have to do like a panel discussion
Uh,
on diversity and inclusion. Like,
You know what? And
we've had so many
Yeah.
genuinely good people that come on
yeah,
the show that have firsthand experience on doing it, and there's so many struggles with endemic cycling organizations and DEI right now it's
you
it's almost
could write a
cliche to lean
horrible
into on, but
horror book about it. Not a
yes.
not a novel, but a horror story. It
But I think
feels
that in and of itself, that conversation of your day to day, of the things that are actually working, how can we apply some of those learnings to our little cycling community and help with that and
sure.
make bikes more accessible? Like,
Well,
that's
you
a whole
see,
nother conversation.
yeah, and then we didn't even touch that, right? Again,
Right.
it was like
Now
we
you don't need to get
literally.
approval.
right now.
Yeah.
Now you can be like, hey, the next time I'm coming on the gravel lot, this is what we're going to talk about. Do I have any
Right.
bumpers?
Yeah.
Balls, and
Yeah,
then we'll be good.
Send me notes. Yeah. Give me
Yes.
Yeah,
notes.
and and I'll write down all of the different quotes that I have.
Right. You can
Right,
put
that I
on your
like.
suit before you come in so that we know
Right.
we're talking to corporate Steven.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a Fifth Third jersey, a cycling jersey that I
Fantastic. You
bought.
can wear that then
I
next
just
time.
bought
That
it.
sounds
I
perfect.
just bought it like 2-3 weeks ago because Columbus did what is that? Like it's a whole week event.
Oh, it's got the arrow with the thing. Pelotonia.
Yeah,
Yes,
Pelotonia.
Pelotonia.
Yeah.
So there's some employees did that, and I'm like, I have to get this, and so I
Yeah.
bought it.
That's a massive
They raise
event.
so much money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
much
raise
money.
so much loot. It's crazy.
But
And
it's a
that's
whole week, right?
yeah, it's bananas. It's
That's
a
my
whole
challenge. Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, the good thing is that we learned in this conversation that that the gravel lot and the cycle daddies are going to have to do a ride together. So we're going to make that happen because if you're out here on the east side by John and I, we'll make that happen.
Oh,
We'll find a nice weekend.
he's right off Wasson Way. So
Fantastic. You
Yeah,
were right
and
around the corner. Fantastic.
Yes.
We were making this. We were making a little cycle daddies at gravel lot mashup ride. We'll make sure to put it on the socials and make it happen. So
Sounds good.
we do have a final question for you that we want to hit, but we're going to pay some bills. That final question is going to be what you want our pebbles, who are our listeners, the pebbles in the gravel lot, to take home from this. So you ruminate on that while we pay the bills, and then we will get to that final question. So this is a massive thank you to all of you pebbles who are here with us and have been with us here tonight and on listen to the podcast this week. Happy Thanksgiving yet again.
Yeah.
We cannot thank you enough for listening and engaging and being invested in this. That's what made TGL so successful and continues to allow it to happen. We could not continue to bring all this to you without all your support. In addition to supporting our show, we encourage you to slide on in for all of these sponsors because they consistently have been here to help make TGL share all of its awesome stories like Steven's with the entire world. So show them some love so we can keep making this little thing that we like to make in our slice and corner of the internet.
So we're going on 3 years now because we just had the Cincy CX with our partnership with Be Free Ride Bike Cycling Apparel. So hopefully you guys know now. So maybe this is for the newer listeners, but Be Free Ride Bikes, bfrbcycling.com, is fully customized apparel. So yes, you can get your design on a jersey and you can, pick from multiple jerseys and all of that, but they go a step further and allow you to pick the fabrics, pick the cut. They can pick the length of the sleeves. You can pick whether you want a collar or not. Like, you can literally pick every single part of your clothing for your team. So it is completely fully customized kit that tailors to your specific needs. As I said, go to bfrbcycling.com. Take a look at how they can help you, help your entire team get outfitted for 2022. There's also some regular kit up on the retail site on the website, so you can buy it directly there, so you don't have to try and purchase a whole bunch of stuff for your kit order for your team, so you can get one-off things and try it out before you really want to commit to it.
Absolutely. Also, a massive thanks to our good friend Dan, But First Coffee, Mr. Dan at Grimpore Brothers Coffee, doing amazing blends. Head to this link in our show notes right now. All of his blends benefit different people throughout the cycling community, supporting good causes, supporting awesome things that are happening in our community. If you sign up right now, you will get for the coffee subscription service, you will get a free bag of coffee. And I do want to specifically shout out Dan right now because unfortunately this past week, the cyclocross world lost a legendary name.
World champion.
World champion, Mr. Dan Savary.
Mark,
why did I say Dan?
Because I was saying Dan
about
coffee.
Brothers.
Yeah.
Yep. Mark Savary, who had a roast there in Dan's portfolio. So if you can this week, go purchase a bag of that. If Dan still got it on the shelves. Mark was a massive force in cyclocross in the United States, and this world is a lot better for having had him. And unfortunately, this week he lost his battle with cancer. So, Mark, hope you're hopping barriers and checking people into corners up in the sky.
No more pain.
Yeah.
And last but not least, hand-up gloves. Obviously, got the flannel on today because it is flannel. I mean, technically for me, it's always flannel season. Like
it is flannel
even
season.
When it's 90 degrees outside, I'll find a reason. But you guys, obviously, as well, they've been long time supporters. They actually came on before BFRB. So, but now when they joined, they were just cycling. But now they've got golf, they've got snow sports, they've got all different kinds of apparel for a whole range of designs and fits that allow your personality to shine. So we need you guys to click the link in the show notes because the internet apparently is a garbage place where garbage people like to steal links and take credit for things. So click the link in the show notes and use code Pebble $ at checkout to save 10% off everything in store. Go there, shop, get the cyclist in your life something cool that represents their personality for
the holidays.
For the holidays.
Christmas, Hanukkah.
I said the C word. So
Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa,
Hanukkah,
whatever.
Kwanzaa.
What? Yeah, I don't even know how to do the abbreviation of all of them, but I'm here.
The OC. Is that what that's from?
I don't know where I got that from. Probably,
My
but I
wife would be
didn't
proud
watch
of me
the
for
OC.
that reference.
You're dating yourself. I did not
Whatever.
watch the OC.
Whatever. The OC is like mandatory viewing about every 14, 15 months in my household.
What?
Not by me.
But by proxy, you get to watch it.
Yes, I am gifted to watch it. Yes.
So we love hearing from all of you. You are all amazing. As John said, visit at the beginning, subscribe, do all that stuff, reward the internet for doing internet things. Go to thegravelot.com to stay in touch and up to date. Join our live shows every other Tuesday. Catch the podcast on downloads every other Thursday. We're on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Streamlabs, all that stuff. Engage with us, engage with our guests, reach out to Steven. You can get a hold of him through us. We will link you up with him if you are in the Cincinnati area and looking to have fun things and good rides to go on. We got all sorts of cool people that we've got linked up. Reach out to us. We will get you in touch with them.
Our intro and outro music is from Waterboy, so thank you to him for the jams. If you guys like the hold music at the beginning of the show or you like the music that you're about ready to hear, please thank him for sharing his music with us and with all of you guys. So click the link in the show notes or hit him up on any of the major platforms.
So we told you earlier, the Pebbles are our awesome listeners. They all are we are all Pebbles in the Gravel Lot. So if you wanted, Stephen, the Pebbles to take something home from our conversation today, what would you want them to take as a little nugget and pack aside and think about for this week?
I guess I would say that as you think about your life, right? The one thing I would say, and I guess this is me kind of just also being corny, is don't wait and just be your authentic self, and be your authentic self with the people that matter. because I probably could have had this great bond with my dad much earlier, and it didn't have to happen after the age of 34. I'm 37. So that's 3 years of me being my authentic self with my father and having that bond of cycling with him. So I would say, don't wait. And if there's something you want to do, don't listen to mom. No, 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 no,
Uh,
no, no, no.
Now
I listen
she's
to my mom.
definitely not getting a link to
Listen,
this
listen,
podcast for
listen.
sure.
I don't have a tattoo, and it's because my mom told me not to get a tattoo,
There
right?
you go.
So
Well,
I do listen to my mom, but I would say in the end, don't wait.
I love it. I love it. I think that's a powerful message, and a message that we all should take in whatever way in our life, a space where we can all think about trying to advance the things that we care about.
Yeah. I think it's such an appropriate statement for your conversation, but I think it's one that's open-ended enough that anybody can apply it to just about anything. New job. Oh, I'm scared of doing this thing. Like, well, no, like that's go get it. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I like that.
Excellent.
So, Stephen, thank you for taking your evening to spend with us. Like this has been so much fun, and I loved hearing the story again, but like the actual in-depth version of it this time.
Yeah.
Um,
Not the tryouts
yeah,
where
not the abridged. It's like 98 degrees
Tryouts.
at a baseball game.
He's
Version
like,
of
all
it.
right, so let me warm you up in my elevator pitch, and then we'll
Yeah.
have the real meeting. Yeah.
exactly.
And as Doug said in the outro, like thank you to you guys for being listeners, for engaging in this thing, and continuing to download it week after week after week. We can't do this without your support. It's of everything that's going on in Doug and I's life, this is something that is it's immovable. Like it is the thing that we want to keep doing because you guys are so invested in it. So make sure to subscribe, share it with all your bike friends, share this story as far and wide as you deem necessary. Click the like button, visit thegravelot.com, send us a contact form, and if you want to become a Patreon member, that's cool too, but no pressure.
Absolutely. Stephen, thank you. John, thank you. This has been amazing. Pebbles, thank all of you for being here. Be sure to subscribe, follow, and engage, because as we say each and every week, decisions and trails are made by those who show up. So if we don't see you on the trails this time, we'll see you next time. Bye, John.
Bye, Doug.
Thank you.